Welcome back to the Gandee Show. Today I have another banger. Okay. Today we are diving into something that every person in recovery faces, even if they don't want to admit it, and that is overthinking. Something that I perpetually suffer from is critical overthinking. So I'm excited about this. It's wild how the moment we get sober, the moment the fog starts to clear, our minds suddenly decide to run a full marathon, right? Thoughts we ignored or suppressed or numbed for years suddenly come back with a vengeance. And the truth is, sometimes the hardest part of sobriety is not the cravings, it's the thinking. I mean, for me, I can only speak for myself. Today, we're going to talk about why we overthink and what it does to us, and how to stop letting our mind drag us into places that we do not belong. This episode is episode 9, Overthinking in Sobriety. Let's get right into it. Overthinking hits different when you're sober because in addiction, we never truly sit with our thoughts, we numb them. Silence wasn't silence, it was escape. So when sobriety enters the chat, we're suddenly face to face with our mistakes. Oh boy. Yeah. I mean, you know, I can only speak for myself, but I am super hard on myself. So like I'm like my own worst critic. Nobody's ever going to be harder on me than I am on myself. So, you know, uh this was a big one for me, when I got sober and I started thinking about all the mistakes I made and the guilt and the shame set in. And I don't care who you are, guilt and shame is not from God. God did not give us guilt or shame. Um, it does not serve us whatsoever. I will say that I believe the presence of guilt or shame is a sign that you are growing and you're changing in a positive way. Because if you did not experience guilt or shame, then you wouldn't be striving to be a better person. So if you can look at it in that way, that is one positive about it, I believe. But it's important to not let that overcome you. You know, I spent a lot of time in active addiction running from those kinds of feelings. The difference is today I have the tools to cope with those feelings. My the main coping mechanism that I had for many, many years was just to use drugs or alcohol. And that all that's doing is prolonging the inevitable, right? It's not fixing anything. Th- It doesn't go away. It's just like you put a blanket over it, right? So, just to tie that loop, I think that if you can recognize the shame and guilt for what it is, but not let it overcome you, I think that can be a valuable emotion. That anxiety, man, a lot of my anxiety centered around the unknown, right? Like, because I knew what to expect with addiction. Um, there was a lot of unknown that came with getting sober. So I feel like that's where a lot of my anxiety stemmed from, was that unknown. And then also that feeling like I'm behind, right? Like, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole because that goes into looking around at other people and comparing yourself to what they're doing and where they're at. And that is that can get messy. Our fears about the future. yeah, for me, that's that unknown, right? Like, what future? Because the entire time I was using drugs and alcohol, I didn't care about my future. I was living for that day in that moment. So like I never made any preparations for the future, and I feel like, like bringing that around full circle, that's probably for me was one of the contributing factors of, the source of my anxiety because I never what future? I didn't think I had a future, right? Like, how am I going to prepare for something that I do not believe I have? um, and then the next thing on the list is the unknowns we avoided for years. Yeah, yeah, I can really relate to that. It's like our brain goes, "Oh, we're feeling again. Let's dump everything on you at once." And the craziest part is, it's actually normal. Okay, that's nice to know. Your brain coming back online, your emotions waking up, your self awareness returning. Overthinking is often a sign that your mind is trying to heal. It just doesn't know how yet. Interesting. It's an interesting perspective. In recovery, overthinking can show up in sneaky ways. Replaying old mistakes. You lay in bed like, remember that one thing I did 6 years ago? Let's relive that again. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I can definitely say that I've done that. Wasted many minutes doing that. Creating imaginary future disasters. I'm doing good right now, so obviously something terrible is about to happen. Oh my goodness. Dude, that plagued me for oh man. I'm not going to say so like all right, so I went from jail to NeoCap, which is a cognitive based treatment facility, a 5-month program, a very controlled environment. And from there, I went to a 90-day residential treatment. So, like, those environments are very, very controlled and structured. So, this part hadn't hit me yet. Really, it wasn't until I got my first apartment in sobriety. That's when this started for me. Creating imaginary future disasters. Uh, Man, I don't know how long it lasted, but at least the first month I lived here, maybe even more, I was so uncomfortable because, I was so used to chaos that, man, everything was like too good. This episode, this topic is perfect for me, honestly. So we might be here for a while. But so, I get into this place, everything's going good. I'm working, I got a vehicle, I got my license back. I started to acquire a couple of things, like started building my wardrobe up and stuff, like just normal stuff that normal people have that aren't drug addicts, right? But like I was just so scared that I was going to lose it all and I wasn't even doing anything wrong. I just remember like let me try to like paint this picture for you. So like I would get off of work and I would get out of my vehicle to walk into my apartment and I would literally like look over my shoulder like somebody was after me or something. Like it's so ridiculous and it sounds so ridiculous now, but it's a real thing that people go through in recovery. And it's for a lot of different reasons. Everybody's path is different, but like for me, the guilt and the shame had a serious effect on me, right? Because we're not alcoholics and addicts. We're not bad people. I said this in my last episode. As a matter of fact, I think we are some of the greatest people that exist on this planet. If anything, we feel too much, right? So, like, of course, we're gonna feel guilty and shameful for the things that we did when we were under the influence of mood and mind altering substances because that's not who we are. We spent a lot of time on creating imaginary future disasters, but that was a really big thing for me. Um, and it took some work to stop feeling that way. I was open and honest with my woman about it. I was also going to counseling, biweekly counseling, and it's just stuff that I had to work through. And something that really started helping me with that was positive self-talk. um and at first I didn't even believe the stuff I was saying to myself, but like it's something I would practice in the morning, and I would also journal about it. This is something that really helped me out with what we're talking about right now, these future disasters that don't exist, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, life's gonna happen no matter what, but I found out that when you're not doing anything wrong, there's not much room in your life for wrong things to happen. Hyper analyzing every conversation. Did they sound off? Are they mad at me? Did I say something wrong? Oh my goodness, dude. Oh man, I'm guilty of this. I'm still guilty of this, and I'm like coming up on 3 years of sobriety. um, oh my goodness. Critical, critical overthinker and just so hyper analytic. And I feel like that's kind of the person I am naturally anyways. I really, really like to know the reason behind things. So that contributes to this hyper analyzing every conversation. But I still do this. So um but you know what? It doesn't always have to be a negative thing because it's helped me become more aware, more self-aware. And I believe that can be positive, right? It can be a slippery slope, doubting yourself constantly, even when you're doing great. Yes, yes. This is also something I'm still struggling with today, right? Like, man, I just got hired, like officially hired. I've been working for a company kind of as a subcontractor for the last 8 months. And, when they first took me on, they weren't sure about me, and rightfully so, because they got the way it was set up was through the court system. It was something the judge set up, the Geauga Drug Court judge set up with the the construction company that's building the courthouse right now, and they wanted to give somebody in the program a chance, and they picked me. And when they told me the offer, I didn't even believe them. And I still didn't believe him for the first whole week that I worked. I did not believe that what they told me was gonna happen until I got my first paycheck. And then it was still kind of hard to believe, honestly, because it was a life-changing opportunity, and there was a lot of unknown going into that because before this I was working at a coffee shop. So I'm going from working at a coffee shop to building a courthouse, you know. And not only that, building the courthouse I was sentenced in. How freaking cool is that, right? Like really cool. But um I definitely struggled a lot with doubting myself. And again, something that really helps with that is writing, journaling, because it gives me a space to process those thoughts. Being open with my support group about it is super helpful because you can get other perspectives from people who can see how you're doing, right? Like you think you have an idea of what and how you're doing, but when you're able to get a perspective from the people that are around you that really care about you, right? That don't want nothing from you, that'll give you an honest opinion, whether it's what you want to hear or not, that always helps. So I highly recommend that. Fear of messing up. Overthinking makes you feel like one wrong step means everything will fall apart. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yes. Um, yes. And I believe that stems from trauma, right? So like I got my first felony when I was 18 years old. So I mean things are different now. It's a little bit easier to get a job with a felony now than it was back then, but it created this, I don't know what you want to call it, but like this way of thinking that like, oh man, I can't mess this up because I'm never going to get an opportunity like this again. And gosh, that's a terrible thing to feel, you know. And I would say positive self-talk really helps with that. It does. And again, just consulting your support group. Having a support group is one of the most important things if you want to stay sober, I believe. The mind becomes a full-time commentator and not a supportive one, more like that friend who constantly whispers worst case scenarios. Yeah, I'm my own worst case scenario whisperer. When I first stepped into sobriety, the overthinking was insane. I remember early on, I would sit alone and obsess over everything: conversations, relationships, decisions. I'd ask myself, am I doing enough? What if I relapse? What if people never trust me again? What if I never become who I want to be? Those are all really deep questions, you know? And I think we all need to ask ourselves those questions, because you have to be honest with yourself before you can be honest with anybody. And you have to know what works for you and what your triggers are. You got to understand what the things that will put you in danger of relapsing are, right? Like that's something you better figure out. And for me, setting boundaries was one of my main defense mechanisms against that. I don't really have a fear that I'm going to relapse, and I don't want that to sound wrong or come off wrong, but I believe everybody can get to that point. And having a purpose is something that can really, really help with that. In sobriety, I've become secure in my identity, free from chaotic anxiety, goal directed, purpose driven, and in service to others. And these are the things that keep me from relapsing. So I think it's really important to be able to figure what these things are for you, in order to have that foundation that you need to be successful in sobriety. And for me, being in service to others is probably the biggest thing besides having a purpose, like being purpose driven, right? Because when you have a purpose, it makes it really easy to get out of bed, a lot easier. But being in service to others is what fills that void that I tried to fill with drugs and alcohol. Because you can only wake up and serve yourself for so long. It's not sustainable. It leads to nothing. It leads to emptiness. And the what if I never become who I want to be? Man, God says that He will make up for all the years that you lost. It's just a matter of if you believe that or not. The thing about overthinking is it doesn't just sit quietly in the back of your mind. It tries to take over your life. I realized something. I wasn't overthinking because I was weak. I was overthinking because for the first time in years, I was actually feeling again. Sobriety didn't break me, it woke me up. It woke me up. Here's the hard truth that no one tells you. Overthinking is a fear response. It's your mind trying to protect you from pain by predicting it before it can hurt you. But here's the twist. 95% of the things we overthink, they don't even happen. They don't exist. Our mind builds imaginary problems and then convinces us they're real. Sobriety forces us to face reality. And not only that, it gives us the tools we need to be able to cope with it. Overthinking tries to pull us back into the illusion. You cannot heal while you're living in your head. That is a fact. How to stop the spiral. Here we go. Number one, name the thought. That goes back to what I was saying earlier about, not letting the feeling of guilt and shame overcome you, but acknowledge it. When your mind starts spiraling, literally call it out. Okay, this is anxiety. This is fear. This is not reality. Naming it separates you from it. That's incredible. Another thing I can relate that to right now, something I'm currently going through is, I'm struggling with judging people, and I really can't even tell you why, because I don't want to judge people. And I do it all day in my head, especially at work, to the point to where like it's my inner dialogue, and I honestly didn't even recognize it when I was doing it, but like I'm able to name that thought now. Okay, this is me being judgmental. Stop it. And that stops it right in tracks. Like it's something I'm still working on, but I can say personally that being able to name the thought or the feeling that you're having is a really good way to separate yourself from it. Ask yourself one question: is this happening right now? If not, let it go. Your brain loves to react to imaginary danger. Pull it back to the present moment. Do a 30-second grounding check. Look around the room. Name 5 things you see. Name 4 things you can touch. Name 3 things you can hear. Name 2 things you can smell and 1 thing you can taste. Boom, you're back in reality. I like that. I'm going to try that. Even if it's with if I catch myself internally judging somebody that I don't even know, I'm going to try this and I will report back to you guys and tell you how it worked. Replace thinking with action. Overthinking loves stillness. Motion kills it. That's for sure. Clean something. Go on a walk. Journal. Journal. Amen. Call someone. Drink some water. It's always good to drink water. I gotta tell my woman all the time. She's like, I got a headache. I'm like, did you drink water today? Did you eat something today? I had coffee. Oh, of course. Let me get you some water, honey. Read scripture. Do literally anything that moves your body or your spirit. Yes, I concur. Give yourself permission to not have all the answers yet. I like that too. Early sobriety is uncomfortable because you're rebuilding a life. You're not supposed to have it all figured out. Amen. And that's easier said than done because like I said earlier, like when that fog cleared, it was like I woke up. I've been sleeping for freaking 20 years. You don't get much done when you sleep for 20 years. Right? But this is important, give yourself permissions to not have all the answers yet. Thank you. Early sobriety is uncomfortable because you're rebuilding a life. You're not supposed to have it all figured out, and that's okay. Talk about it. Overthinking grows in silence. The moment you say it out loud to someone you trust, it loses power. Going back to that support system you have, it's crucial. It's a crucial part of surviving this. You have to build a support system, and that looks different for everybody, right? That could be counseling. That could be, if you have a mentor, somebody you look to for advice, that could be your partner. But it is important. Remember this: your thoughts aren't facts. And neither are your feelings. Just because you think something doesn't mean it's true. Yes. Yes. Okay, this is it. Okay, here we go here. How overthinking can lead to relapse. This part is real, okay? Overthinking creates pressure, anxiety, loneliness, emotional exhaustion, and self-doubt. And when you're tired or overwhelmed, your brain whispers, just escape, just numb it, right? Because that's what you know. That's what we know how to do. This is why it's so important to catch the thought spiral early. Relapse rarely starts with a drink or a substance. It starts with a thought. Man. Protect your mind and protect your sobriety. That's powerful. Here's what I want you to walk away with. You're not broken for overthinking. You are not weak. You are healing. Let that sink in. You're healing. And Rome wasn't built in a day. I know you've heard that saying. We spend so many years digging ourselves in a hole. It takes time to fill that hole in. And then okay, so you fill the hole in. Well, now you're just at the ground, right? Now you got to start building up from that. So give yourself some grace. You're rewiring a mind that has survived chaos for years. Your thoughts don't define you. Your mistakes don't define you. Your past doesn't define you. Sobriety is teaching you how to sit with yourself, how to understand yourself, and how to trust yourself. And every day that you choose clarity over chaos, every day you choose sobriety over escape, and every day you choose growth over fear, you're becoming a version of yourself you never even met. Keep going, keep healing. You are doing better than you think. We're going to say that again. Keep going, keep healing. You are doing better than you think. I'm proud of you. This is episode 9 of the Gandee Show. Thank you for being here with me. I'll see you in the next one. If you got a story or something you want to share, I would be honored to read it to my audience. So please email me at thegandeeshow@gmail.com. I'm out. Let's go.